At some point in this video, I will tell you about how I feel about the surgery now, but for the most part, this is the story of how it went. Of course, do not make any medical decisions based on this video. I made it to the hospital, and in order to get my surgery, there is one more door in my way, and I'm staring at it. I'm beginning to get a little bit nervous, but without a doubt, the worst was behind me. Or at least so I thought. You see, up until this point, I had this horrible misunderstanding that no matter how much pain you had, a doctor can just give you some medication and it would go away. I was very wrong, and I'll get to that later. The surgeons need to make sure that I'm not having a panic attack by checking my heart rate and my breathing rate, and fortunately, I'm an idiot. I thought this would be fine, so I was totally okay. You see, up until this point, I had so much concerns about not making it to the hotel or something falling through that as soon as I was in that surgery room, my anxiety was gone, completely gone. When I wake up, there's a nurse already in my room, ready to brief me on what's to come. First of all, I'm not going to be able to walk for a few days, so the bed I'm lying in currently is going to be my home for quite a while. And second, when I finally do walk, I'm going to need an actual walk doctor, a walk magician to help me out. I don't know what they're called, but it was a guy that helped me walk. Now, you might be asking yourself, how do you use the washroom? Well, with the power of science, I didn't have to get out of bed. They'd also bring me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So basically, this was my dream come true. Second, in the case of emergency, I have a big red button I can click at any time to bring a nurse in to help me out, which translated to me as, if you want to inconvenience us and be an absolute pest, press the red button and we'll hate you forever. Naturally, the first day is kind of blurry for me, but the nighttime I remember very well. You know how I didn't want to press the red button because I feared the nurses hating me until the heat death of the universe? Well, I actually accidentally underdosed myself with pain meds because of that as well. The way pain meds are supposed to work is pretty simple. On a 1 to 10 scale, you tell the nurse how much pain you're in, and then they give you medication based off that. I didn't really understand the system that well at the time, and I didn't want to abuse it, so if I was at an 8, I would say I was at a 6. Specifically, what I didn't understand, what a 10 out of 10 pain really felt like, so I had no idea how to gauge where I was at. Accidentally, this led me to finding out the hard way. Now, fortunately, in this scenario, you just have to press the red button and a nurse will come in and help you at any time. You can press that button at any time you want. You can just press the button. By day number 2, I started to communicate my pain a little bit better, but at that point I had bed sores as well as a headache that just wouldn't go away no matter what I did. And on top of that, the whole not being able to sit up, stand up, roll over on my side, or even move my legs at all was starting to get very, very old. If not for the fact I had a Tamagotchi in my possession, I would have probably gone insane. You see, after the surgery, I intended to give this as a gift to my daughter, but at the moment it was still in my possession and it became my best friend. And yes, don't worry, I have pictures. Behold, my little blob with 2 ears in a box, my green blob singing, and above all else, my favorite Tamagotchi child, stretchy green blob. At this point, and for the next few days, I can't tell you how much of an emotional support this stretchy green blob became. The first time I stood up, I could not walk on my own 2 feet. I had to hold braces, etc., and I could only do so for about 3 minutes. At that point, my goal was pretty simple. Every day, I had to stand up for as long as I could, walk for as far as I could, so I could get out of the hospital in a timely manner. And I wish I could say this is where it got easier, but oh my god, it only got worse. The weeks after the hospital were supposed to be dedicated to me recovering, lying in bed, and doing literally no more. By the doctor's orders, I had to be in a hotel within the city that I got the surgery just in case of complications for 2 weeks. So it is immensely important that during this time I stay hydrated, stay cleanly, stay in bed, and just recover. But by some stroke of crazy fate, my daughter lived in this very city. And during this time, her father, her adoptive father, just upped and outed of her life. This happened the day before I left the hospital. But before I get into why that's relevant, let me talk to you about the struggles of recovering. Just because I could walk enough for the hospital to let me out doesn't mean that walking was easy at all. Every single step was excruciatingly painful, and the longer I walked, the worse it got. Sitting is just as painful, if not worse, and honestly, sitting down to pee absolutely sucks. That is a complete downgrade, but that aside, you might see where I'm going with this. Every day, I would walk up the hotel hallway, down the elevator, to the front, and sit in an Uber to go see my daughter. I'm going to show you what it was like to walk around for about 2 weeks to a month after the surgery, but I have to ask you up front to not make fun of me, okay? I had enough old lady jokes thrown my way during that period. So this is what it was like, okay? This is about the mobility that I had. This is as fast as I could go. Everywhere that I went, in my backpack was my trusty butt cushion, allowing me to sit down to rest when I needed to, but the best case scenario was to lie down on my back for extended periods of time to rest. One of my best friends was helping me through all of this, otherwise it would not have been physically possible to be there for my family or to even cook for myself for the first few days. When I started to get a little more mobile, I thought it'd be a good idea to bring my daughter to an amusement park. They had wheelchairs, meaning my friend could push me around while we were there. This was hands down one of the best days of my life, but something that happened after the surgery, which I didn't anticipate, was how mentally taxing it would really be. For a month after the surgery, my anxieties and insecurities were tenfold what they usually are, and on this day, I was in a wheelchair, which caused everybody to stare at me. The mounting pressure led me to believe that using the men's washroom was the safest option in order to avoid conflict. I was wrong. When using the washroom, I had these very specific wet sanitary wipes that I had to use to stay cleanly after, going to the bathroom. On this day, I had forgotten these at the hotel, so the best alternative was to take some toilet paper and wet it in the sink. I left the stall with a handful of toilet paper, I washed it down in the sink, and then went back into the stall, and this is when one of the most memorable moments had happened. A man who went to the sink while I was washing down the toilet paper had yelled at me when I went back into the stall about how women should be in women's bathrooms. And look, harassment like this is never okay, but as the person in the stall terrified at the time, I'd be lying if I didn't say it did make me feel a little bit good about myself. And I know this isn't relevant to the surgery, but it's just something I never thought would happen, especially to me. I don't think I'm the most passable person on the planet, and it's just a wacky situation in general. But by God, I was needing a win at this time, and it's funny that it came from someone trying to ruin my day who accidentally kind of made my month. So the question remains, how do I feel about it now? Well, to reiterate my earlier disclaimer, this video is not to share any medical information. This is purely to share my experience. Make your own informed decisions and talk to a doctor. If I'm going to be brutally honest, it doesn't feel like a light switch to happiness, and I wouldn't necessarily say it was life-changing. Yes, I'm happy I got it, and yes, there's benefits, but the main benefit that came with it is it opened the door for me to psychoanalyze some negative thoughts I had about myself. And although this was a boot in the butt through that door, ultimately I found out in the end that door was a mirage and I was able to walk through it at any time. For many years, this felt like a finish line on a long, crazy journey I took many years ago, but it was a coalescence of that journey that ultimately made me happy in the end. If there's one thing I learned from all of this, in hindsight, there was no light switch or finish line that was going to make me happy. Each step every day was the process of getting there. None of that is to say that I'm unhappy with the decision. Ultimately, I feel like it was right for me in the end. I know for sure none of this was the answer you were expecting at the end of this video, but as anticlimactic as it might sound, I do think it has value. But with that said, I have been holding off on wearing tights until this very recording. I will go put those on right now. The moment of truth. Okay, let me just get them all the way up and yeah, it's pretty comfortable. It's good. This video is sponsored by G-Subs. Gamer Subs is the best way to get caffeine into your mouth. Using code GenderFluid or the link down below will save you 10% off and support the channel directly. It tastes delicious, the tubs last a very long time with 100 servings, and again, it's delicious. Try cherry limesicle or goof juice. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye!